I wanted to do something a little different this week and pull out an alto whistle. This is an alto A by James Becker from Missouri. It is a PVC whistle with a Delrin block, handmade. The thing that was interesting about James Becker's whistles is that you could get a fairly nice playing handmade whistle, well tuned, for about $22, $25, depending on the whistle. This is one of two whistles I got from Mr. Becker, and I love them both. It's not necessarily my favorite tone in terms of what I really like to hear in a whistle, but there's only so much of that you're going to get out of a PVC whistle or a softwood or bamboo. They're going to sound a little airier and more flute-like. However, this thing plays so nicely and it's so much fun. It doesn't take as much air as I would expect. A lot of times the bigger and the lower the whistle you go, the more you're really going to have to be able to push. Now I know that there are concessions that can be made by the whistle makers regarding back pressure and little bits of engineering that can be done with the windway and the mouthpiece. But a lot of times that creates a compromise where you lose volume, you lose stability in the lowest notes of the bell tone. What Mr. Becker has done with this whistle is pretty great, considering that it started its life as a PVC pipe. A word on alto. There is a tendency among whistle players to pretty much consider everything a high whistle or a low whistle. I prefer to use the classical ranges. Pretty much anything above high E flat, we're calling a sopranino. Anything from E flat down to B flat is a soprano. From A all the way down to what players call low F, that is the alto range. When you start getting down into low E, low D, those are tenor. Tenor E, tenor D. And then below B, that's a bass whistle, when you've gone below B or B flat again. Now, are these classical distinctions that important? Not necessarily, and not to most people. I just prefer to be more specific, so there's no confusion. Also, there tends to be some disagreement between people whether A is the top of the alto range or the bottom of the soprano range, and so some confusion can ensue, but for the most part it's more specific than just saying high or low. To go with that, you're not really ever going to see a whistle higher than sopranino G or A, because they're only going to be about that long, and without some interesting engineering they are too small to play, can't get your fingers together that close, and they're very shrill. Whistles below the tenor range into the bass range, anything below bass A or G perhaps, is also going to be problematic. It's going to require keys. It's going to be such a long and large bore whistle. It's going to require, you might need some other kind of bellows because they just require so much breath. So yeah, you can get away with just saying low or high. It's just a matter of my preference that I prefer specificity. But yeah, nobody cares. Not really. Just me. Anyway, as far as this Becker alto A whistle goes, it's not my favorite tone. It has a really flute-like, less bird-like, sort of what I call bamboo-y or darker tone. But it's just such a nice, easy playing whistle, and being able to play an A or to cross finger into D, but hit lower notes in the key of D than you do on a soprano D whistle is brilliant. The sad thing is that Mr. Becker is no longer making whistles. I looked at his website because I was actually thinking about ordering another Becker whistle, and it turns out there's a message on his webpage that says, "Hi fellow musicians, thanks for over 13 years and almost 4,000 whistles. The last day to order was March 7th, 2023. I went back to look sometime in April, and I was really disappointed. Mr. Becker says, "I will be spending retirement with my beautiful wife of 47 plus years It has been a pleasure, my friends. The shop is closed. Now, apparently, there are still some places where you can find Becker's whistles. The Irish Flute Store might still have them. I'm not sure. But for the most part, it's it. Those of us that got some of those 4,000 whistles, we're the ones. That's it. So if you're going to find a Becker whistle, at this point, you're going to find it used. You're going to find it from someone who is purging their collection or letting go. And that, sadly, is probably going to be a rarity because it is a virtually indestructible whistle that is not responsive to temperature or humidity. It can be carried anywhere. It can be gotten wet. And it's just a sweet whistle. Well, James Becker, if you decide to pop out of retirement or have anything interesting laying around, let me know. Because I would love it. I would love to see it and play it and feel it. Because if it impresses me as much as the 2 whistles I've gotten from you already, it's gonna be wonderful. I would say that a James Becker whistle, if it can be found, especially in the more common keys like D and C, would be a brilliant starter whistle because the breath requirements aren't too much, the tuning is good, and originally they sold for under $25. James Becker Alto A was the whistle of the week. I am still saddened, but also happy for Mr. Becker that he's retiring, and hopefully he and his wife are having a great time. We'll see you next week when we are trying a whole different whistle.